Guys, let's talk about Kiss Me Tomorrow because this movie is giving us love, friendship, ambition, comedy, and one very interesting business battle all at once. If you have watched it already, you already know there is a lot to discuss. And if you haven't watched it yet, honestly, go and watch it first, then come back and let's discuss it together. This movie introduces us to Toshi, a young woman who seems to have everything going for her. She is hardworking, confident, independent, and most importantly, she is building her own food business, Flavors by Toshi. But there is one thing her friends believe she simply cannot live without: a relationship. Toshi had just experienced another romantic disappointment, and this time she decides she has had enough. According to her, she is done with relationships and is ready to focus entirely on herself and her business. But of course, her friends Dennis and Kiki are not buying it. And honestly, I find their relationship hilarious because they know Toshi so well that they are almost waiting for her next romantic adventure to happen. They practically challenge her to prove that she can stay away from men for an entire year. Now, this is where things get interesting. What starts as ordinary teasing between friends turns into a serious wager. Toshi decides she will stay away from relationships, situationships, and anything romantic for one whole year. Dennis then raises the stakes by offering her something connected to his business if she succeeds. But if she fails, she risks losing a huge percentage of her own business. Now tell me, would you accept a bet like that if you were Toshi? Because personally, I will be looking at that contract very carefully before shaking anybody's hands. But beyond the comedy, I actually like what the movie is trying to show us about friendship. Dennis and Kiki may tease Toshi mercilessly, but underneath all this teasing, they genuinely care about her. They have known her for years and they understand her personality better than most people. Toshi is also not just sitting around waiting for love, she is building herself. She is building something. Her food business is growing from an online operation into a physical restaurant, and we get to see how much work goes into making that dream a reality. From developing new recipes and testing sauces to preparing for the restaurant opening, Toshi is clearly determined to succeed. And that part of the movie really stood out to me. Sometimes people see a successful business and assume everything happened overnight, but behind that success are decisions, sacrifices, uncertainty, and plenty of moments where the owner has to risk. Am I actually going to make that work? Toshi gets that moment when Flavors by Toshi finally opens its physical location. Her friends are there to celebrate her, and you can genuinely feel how important that achievement is to her. But then comes another challenge. Her business is growing and growth requires money. Toshi begins considering equity investment because she needs more than just capital. She needs mentorship, connections, strategic guidance, and people who understands the industry. And this is where I think this movie becomes more than just a romantic comedy. It starts talking about business, ownership, friendship, ambition, and the difficult choices entrepreneurs have to make when their business begin to expand. Toshi has supportive friends, and even her parents have contributed to her journey. Yet she understands that sometimes money alone isn't enough. The right investor can bring connections and experience that can take a business to another level. But just when you think the biggest problem is going to be business, Romance comes knocking again. Hey! John appears and apparently he has not gotten the message that Toshi is trying to stay away from relationships. This woman is doing everything possible to convince herself and everybody around her that she is finished with men. Yet here comes John trying to reopen a chapter she has already decided to close. And then Toshi does everything that had me laughing. When John approaches her, she decided to pretend she has a boyfriend. Girl, hey! At this point I was thinking, madam, wasn't the whole point of this challenge to stay away from men? Why are you now creating a boyfriend just to chase another man away? But that scene also tells us something about Toshi. She isn't necessarily against love. She is trying to protect herself from the emotional complications that comes with relationships. And that is something many people can relate to. Sometimes, after a heartbreak, you tell yourself, I'm done. I don't want anybody again. You make promises to yourself that you are going to focus on your career, your business, your education, or your personal growth. But then life happens. Someone comes along and suddenly that strong decision you made start getting tested. Now, just when we think the romantic drama is going to dominate the story, the movie throws another interesting problems at us. Toshi discovers that a major business connection has a serious problem with having women as shareholders. Wait, what? In 2026? That revelation immediately changes the atmosphere. The issue isn't simply about whether Toshi gets investment. It becomes a question of what price are you willing to pay for business opportunities? Would you accept money from someone who doesn't respect women enough to treat them equally in business? Would you give up part of your ownership just to get access to powerful connections? Or would you walk away and continue building your company on your own terms? That is where I think Kiss Me Tomorrow gives viewers something to debate about. Because ambition is wonderful, but sometimes success comes with difficult choices. And when those choices involves your dignity, your principles, and your identity as a business owner, the decision becomes much more complicated. For me, Toshi is one of the most interesting characters because she is trying to balance several parts of her life at once. She wants independence, she wants love but doesn't want heartbreak. She wants friendship, she wants her business to succeed, and she wants to prove that she can keep a promise she made to herself. But the big question is, will she actually make it through the entire year without falling in love again? And more importantly, what happens when love and business start crossing paths? Guys, I really want to hear your opinion on this matter. Do you think Toshi was right to make that 1 year no relationship bet? Was Dennis being a good friend by challenging her, or did he take the joke too far by putting her business on the line? And what about the investor who doesn't want women as shareholders? If you were in Toshi's position, would you accept the investment because of the money and connections, or would you reject it because of the man's attitude? And let's not forget John. Hey! Do you think Toshi genuinely wants to stay away from relationships, or is she simply trying to convince herself that she doesn't need love? There's definitely plenty here for us to discuss. So if you haven't watched Kiss Me Tomorrow, please go and watch it and come back here so we can discuss the movie together. Don't just watch it and disappear. I want to know what you think about Toshi, Dennis, Kiki, John, and the business storyline, the relationship drama, and the shocking shareholder issue. And if you are new here, please subscribe to Flicks and Feels. Turn on your notifications so you don't miss our next movie discussion. Don't forget to like this video, drop your thoughts in the comment section, and share it with someone who loves Nollywood movies as much as you do. Let's talk about it in the comment. Would you choose love, friendship, or business if you were forced to make the choice? I'll be waiting to hear your thoughts. This video is an independent review, commentary, and discussion of Kiss Me Tomorrow. All rights to the original movie, its character, footage, dialogue, music, and other creative elements belongs to Money Oboli TV and the respective copyright owners. This content is created for commentary, criticism, review, and entertainment purposes only, and is not intended to reproduce or replace the original work.